Shalom. Call halal Yahweh Bashan Abishai Bahashem Rakak Dash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of the great millstone. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so, now more so than ever. To the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird. And to the akwaf that are listening and learning. To you I say shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the great millstone here in Chicago, coming at you with another lesson in truth. This is 2nd Ezra, the 9th chapter, starting at verse 1, and it reads, He answered me then and said, Measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs past, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, then thou shalt well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. You have many people that have said, every 50 or 100 years something happens and people run to the scriptures. The things that are happening today has never happened before in the history of mankind. And the uproars are indeed worldwide. The earthquakes and the famine and the different pestilence and the problems are worldwide.
Well, across the country have resulted in an extraordinary situation in Seattle. Calls for racial justice and turmoil across the country have resulted in a takeover of one part of Seattle. As the standoff continues, there's now a war of words between the president and local officials.
A stunning moment as protesters take over an entire neighborhood in Seattle and declare it an autonomous free zone. The streets are barricaded. Men with assault rifles stand guard at checkpoints. They painted over surveillance cameras. The sign says, Welcome to the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, CHAZ for short. The zone under occupation is a city within a city, 6 blocks in total. At its center, a police precinct that has been taken over after cops abandoned it to avoid a violent confrontation. Inside Edition cameras were inside the zone today. The police precinct is now called the People's Precinct. Look, this sign says you are now leaving the USA. President Trump is demanding the barricades be torn down and the neighborhood taken back. Domestic terrorists have taken over Seattle. Take back your city now. If you don't do it, I will. These ugly anarchists must be stopped immediately. Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkin responded, Make us all safe. Go back to your bunker. Black Lives Matter. White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany appeared on Fox News today.
Does the president plan to use military action on the streets of Seattle?
Well, the president's message is that he will secure the streets in this country.
Inside the zone, there are free concerts, free food at a store called a no-cop co-op, even movie night in a public square. Black Lives Matter has been painted on the street in huge letters. And social distancing, forget about it.
And see, this whole guise of Black Lives Matter, even though it's mostly funded and controlled, and a lot of the faces you see and control and power over this organization are pale faces. In the long run, who's going to get blamed for that? The brown people that they're ignorantly and purposely referring to as black. They're going to be the face of this, even though they're not in control of this. All right, this is 2nd Ezra 15 and 14, and it reads, Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men, invading one another, and they shall not regard their kings nor their princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. Because see, remember, it said local authorities. The authorities are Edomites, so-called white people. But the face of it, let's put the arrow, it's going to be this guy right here. All right? Not all the Edomites that are clearly controlling things as you are watching the video. But his face, let's circle him, and the faces like his will be the blame. They're setting Jacob up for the okie doke, and many of you are following it. See, our protest is simply that of the Bible. We are the Israelites, and you've denied us our heritage. History, the relics, the scriptures, and the evidence of these things prove that to be so.
Also disturbing allegations from cops.
We have heard anecdotally reports of citizens and businesses being asked to pay a fee to operate within this area. This is the crime of extortion.
Seattle Police Chief Carmen Best was given access to the precinct to try to resolve the crisis.
Can we talk to you?
In a video address, she told cops it was a mistake to abandon the precinct.
See, America is a mistake, and everything that's done here falling under Esau, Edom. All right? Because it tells you in, I believe it's in Timothy, that the woman is not to usurp authority over the man. And just like the scripture says, the Lord will create a new thing in the earth where a woman will still surpass a man. A woman is not supposed to be in a position where she has authority over a man, but yet this is a so-called Christian society, you know, so they say. That's what they say, all right? But yes, this is 1 Timothy 2 and 10. It said, but which becometh woman professing godliness with good works, let the woman learn in silence with all subjection. But I suffer not a woman to teach nor usurp the authority over the man, but to be in silence. For Adam was first formed, then Eve. That's the order of things. And Adam was not deceived, but the woman being deceived was in transgression. Notwithstanding, she shall be saved in childbearing, if she shall continue in faith and charity and holiness and sobriety. It said, and that's if she continues, she'll be saved in childbearing. That's where that Isaiah 4:1 come into place. This woman's job is to receive seed, produce breast milk for that seed that was placed in her. She didn't produce it on her own. All right, and then be in silence and be a good wife. And that isn't a bad thing. The Lord set that up. That isn't chauvinistic. That isn't patriotic domination. All right, that's the Lord's order. All right, the woman is supposed to be a helpmate to her man and nothing more. All right, this is a very attractive sister. And you know what? I would, I as a man. What man wants their woman to go to work and then be surrounded by an army of men, and then she spends more time with them than she does at home? See, it breeds confusion, it breeds adultery. That's why American marriages don't work out. Women in the workplace with their work boyfriend or their work husbands. All right, and I've actually dated a female cop. She kind of reminds me of her many years ago. All right, and I'm gonna tell you, cops are very, very adulterous, and they're very, very promiscuous. How do you think I got one in the first place? You know, she was like 10 years older than me. I was in my late 20s at the time. All right. So I'm gonna tell you, man, the women in the military, the women in the police force, that's not supposed to be. What time? That's how Elder Apostle Gabar always says you can tell the position of a nation, all right, by the way that its women are, all right, or society for that matter, because collectively the women of Israel are completely out of order, but on a broader scale, the women of all the nations are out of order. How many? You saw the leader, the mayor of the city was a woman too. All right. What type of men, red-blooded men, all these so-called soldiers whose fathers supposedly fought in World War I and II, all these great men, there were no women fighting on the battlefield in any of those wars or any of the wars before that. No woman, no group of women has ever conquered and built the country anywhere. Ever. In the history of mankind. Ever. And they never will. All right. So, that just kind of got out the spirit kind of led to that. That wasn't where where I wanted to go. But I'm just, these last couple of days, I just keep seeing these women in these positions of authority where there's nothing but chaos going on. All right, and this is just breeding contention. So let's click to another video as we see this society falling, and let's click to this video here. There we go. Because I just happen chance came across this video. So let's just let a few minutes of it play. And mind you, the language that he's using in here is very subtle, because he's very subtly and very wisely speaking about violence against his fellow American and against Jacob. All right. Okay, because he's talking about, and look, Antifa did take over Black Lives Matter, and Black Lives Matter is not for the so-called black people. All right. Black Lives Matter is being led by 3 lesbian women, and they do not want straight so-called black men in their leadership or any voice in it whatsoever. And they've handed over the reins of their organization as if they ever had control over it to Edomites. So people that look like the man on the screen are actually in control of it, and they are against each other. This is the Egyptian versus the Egyptian happening right before your face.
Howdy guys, Rex here. We're going to give you an after-action report on what we saw when Antifa came through our area. So this is an alert for everybody kind of in rural America, because they have announced their targets openly, because they perceive their targets to all be soft targets. And so they have such hubris to where they're just saying what they're going to do, and then they follow through and execute time after time. Amazingly, they've been met with very little resistance in a lot of the country. People are starting to pick up on that, and people are starting to stand their ground. So we've seen models that have worked to repel the rioters. And
now, the stand their ground means the insurrection, the civil wars, and the battles are going to ensue. See, this whole reopening is just a temporary mess, because if what's happening in Seattle spreads across the country, that's like something out of a movie. It's like you're watching a Hollywood blockbuster movie, man. But you know what's that saying, that reality is stranger than fiction?
The arsonists and the looters, and we've seen recipes that have not worked to repel the rioters, the arsonists, and the looters. Now, clarification of terminology. I don't know why I have to go over this, but apparently I have to. A lot of people have an IQ below 70. And so here we go. A protester is not...
So here we go with that lie IQ again. The fucking lie IQ. All right? That's a falsehood. Just like being white is a falsehood. All right? Being black is a falsehood. Those, if you have such a high IQ, you'd know that. All right? That your skin is red and that people are brown. There's no such thing as, there's nobody the skin color of his glasses, and there's nobody the skin color of a piece of paper. All right? People are different shades of red, and people are different shades of brown. And you can't push that enough. All right? Black and white are social constructs which were created for control. Point blank, period.
Not a problem. People who are protesting for the death of George Floyd or Michael Brown or whoever, or I don't know, pick your topic, whatever your outrage is.
So pick your nigger, because we've killed millions of them here in America over the centuries. All right?
Everyone has the right to protest. It is a constitutional right to peaceably assemble. It is also the constitutional right of other people to peaceably assemble to protest your protest. So I recognize everyone's right to speak their mind peacefully. When I'm talking about rioters and organized crime and even terrorism, okay, which is what the President of the United States is looking at classifying Antifa as a terrorist organization, because they are very well organized. They are specifically...
It's called control opposition. The people at the top are controlling both sides, because they want this guy to clash with Antifa people, and both sides are falling for it. Controlled opposition. Order ab chaos, order out of chaos.
Trying to burn down the country, to cause insurrection, to destroy the way of life, and destroy the United States of America. They openly say that.
Now, in order to establish America, they raped, robbed, murdered, stole, and destroyed the way of life that was here. You know, my people who were here before them moved around. Why? Because we respected the land Sabbath, and we knew that we didn't own the land, that we were a part of the land. And if you settle in one place, you deplete that area of its natural resources, which means you drain that area, and which means you're going to end up draining other areas, and it just creates a repeating scenario of the same thing over and over again. So you would leave a land so that the soil and the water and the earth could replenish itself, so you can circle back around to it later. But Esau Edom is a greedy, murderer, covetous man.
Now there is some overlap between protesters and rioters, where the protesters become rioters halfway through, or they actually provide support and cover knowingly for the rioters. Most protesters on this particular movement ain't all that bright, so they don't realize that they're being used as human shields for terrorist groups like Antifa.
And that's you so-called Negroes, with all those videos that were popping up all over the place of Edomites spray painting BLM and destroying and burning things, and they're recording it saying, "Stop doing this because we're gonna get blamed for it. You know, you're white. Why are you doing this?" All those type videos.
Who start people's houses on fire, who beat up old people on the interstate after they block it with 1 million people, pull them out of their cars and kick them in the head until all their teeth are gone. That's not protesting, that's rioting. Rioting is a lethal threat, okay? On the force continuum of using deadly force lawfully, if someone is trying to cause serious bodily harm to you or someone else, or trying to kill you, and you believe that that's really the case, that justifies and warrants the lawful use of lethal force.
And there it is. The lawful use of lethal force. And that's and believe me, Esau is an expert at that. His blessing was the sword. Let's fast forward to the 11th minute mark. Right around here we start here.
When they start to move on a point, you need enough people in your community to be squared away and know what the drill is. So create a community awareness with everybody. And there are certain elements of your community that you might not normally appreciate, like your hardcore Second Amendment guys, like your ridiculous over-the-top veterans who are looking for maybe...
So though, what he's really talking about militias, normally white militias, who probably about 98% have a racial overtone.
A little bit of therapy, like maybe some of your angry local biker gangs, which live in your town.
And the biker gangs that live in rural towns are usually Hells Angels and Mongols and things like that, and they're very, very racially motivated in their beliefs and in their ways. You know, a lot of Hells Angels and are also KKK members or support one another when it comes to certain things. All right, because you have KKK members that are police officers and in the military and positions of authority in government, but they'll use their street connects, you know, like biker gangs, you know, Hells Angels types, to do the dirt that they can't do, and then cover for them and protect them lawfully when they get caught or get caught up in the system.
But keep it to a semi-copacetic level. So you need to utilize whatever help you can get of people who are not scared to confront this evil shit when it comes to your town.
So, hey, look, this is Isaiah 19:1, and it reads, "The burden of Egypt, behold, Yahweh rideth upon a swift cloud, and he shall come into Egypt, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved in his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it." So when that chariot of the Lord shows up, you know, it's going to be a wrap on all this anyway. But what's going to be happening when he comes? Verse 2, "And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight everyone against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom." All right, and that's what we've been looking at these last couple videos. All right, because what they've done inside of in this 6-block radius was probably about a mile or so around. They've created their own city within a city. All right, a zone. All right. Verse 3. And the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof, and they shall seek to the idols and the charmers, and to them that have familiar spirits and wizards. And that's another thing. These the left-hand side spirits, angels, aren't answering Esau anymore. That's why everything is speeding up, and Esau's starting to throw everything he has, because he's losing control. All right. The right-hand side is forcing the left-hand side to operate faster than what it normally does. Esau likes gradualism, when he does things in increments of decades. Like two or three decades before an event happened, he makes movies, cartoons, books talking about the events. All right. Then 2 decades, 3 decades later, those events actually take place. And then when people bring it up, oh, how did this author know? How did this director know? It's just a coincidence, or it's a conspiracy. All right. That's them using their left-hand side magic, man. Like their own self-fulfilling prophecies. And it's all going to come to a knot, and it's all going to fail. He even begins to talk about fire watch and neighborhood watch, how a man or two stays awake, and if they see anything, they get, they alarm the rest of the men, and they all come running to fight against Antifa, Black Lives Matter, or whatever the hell. All right. But all this is going to create, this is just leading up to that great civil war, which is also going to turn into a race riot, which is also, there's going to be a food famine, food riots in there as well. Why? Because it's written, and it's all happening. Look at the weather forecast, the prophecy forecast. All right. Did not Elder Apostle Tahar label this year 2020 the year of prophecy? And more things have happened in this 1 year than in the past 30 combined, damn near. All right. It's concerning prophecy. Okay. This is back in 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter. And I'm going to start at verse 17. And it reads, and a man shall desire to go into a city, and shall not be able, for because of their pride the city shall be troubled, and the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. And a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but destroy their houses with the sword, and spoil their goods, because of the lack of bread, and for the great tribulation. Call halal Yahweh Bashim Nawashai Bashim Rakakwadash Wa Ababa Ball. Welcome to the end of Babylon. Shalom.